Hey folks, welcome back to Let's Talk Mental Health. I'm Brian Wall, your host with over 2 decades of experience across 4 countries in the areas of mental health and addiction, with hopes of promoting awareness for listeners that struggle with related issues or know someone who does. Our podcast delves into the latest research and treatments in these areas and shares personal insights of hope and recovery. Are you ready to prioritize your mental well-being and take control of your life? Well, so you came to the right place. The Let's Talk Mental Health offers practical tools and resources for building a happier, healthier you. For more information, be sure to follow us on all major social media platforms by searching 24/7 DCT and online at 247dct.org. This week's episode is yet another effort on our behalf to more closely track our tribe and bring awareness to issues like mental health, addiction, general wellness, and everything in between. Let's go ahead and get started with another opportunity to meet a member of the 24/7 DCT family. Janice Hill is a licensed clinical social worker with over 10 years of experience in mental health services. She has a master's degree in social work and a PhD in education, organizational leadership. She's a published author and has done research on experiences of women in the healthcare industry. She's a disabled veteran serving 10 years in the United States Army. She owns a private practice in which she provides mental health services to clients in the community and is a strong advocate for mental health and mental health services. She's currently serving as our clinical program director in Texas, and we are blessed to have her. Welcome to the show, Dr. Hill, and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We've been bumping around trying to get in touch with each other, and her and I both, we forgot time zones and the day happened and life caught up with us and kind of wrestled us around this week. So thankfully we were able to catch up and find some time for each other. So today I'd like to cover self-care techniques for managing our mental health. This is always an area of interest with clients, and certainly something that reaps mass benefit when we have a good balance with it. So Janice, tell me, what areas do most people struggle with related to self-care in your experience?
So, in my experience, most people struggle with time. Life can become very busy with our daily responsibilities, and some may struggle to find the time in their schedule to implement self care. We're so busy taking care of our families and managing our personal life and our work life. And another area that I really found is when we do engage in self care, oftentimes people begin to feel guilty for taking care of themselves. But it's very important that we take care of ourselves because we're always taking care of others. And it's important that we're considering our emotional and physical state by ensuring that we engage in self love. Because when we don't engage in self love and self care, we put ourselves in, compromising positions that we don't have to be in because we haven't took the time out for ourselves.
Yeah, man, so true. I do the Enneagram, Riso Hudson Enneagram type indicator. That's on the internet as an Enneagram. I use that a lot with clients, and research based to a certain degree. As far as I know, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably 75, 85% accurate. But I found a lot of really good use with it over the last 10 years to help clients just generally get a better idea of who they are, what makes them tick, what their tendencies are, and stuff like that. And I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, a helper. Go figure. I'm a counselor. That worked out pretty well. I'd write a book, but it's too predictable. Nobody would read it. So I'm a 2, and on the Enneagram, 2s are the worst with self-care, and it is no different for me. It's something I definitely struggle with on a regular basis, and it takes a lot of effort to be intentional about that. But I'm learning the power of self-compassion and recognizing that there's some good things about being in this post-pandemic world. I think we're more sensitive, sometimes hypersensitive, which is balancing everything, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're much more patient. I think we're much more giving with a lot of areas of concern, like self-care. So it's been nice in that way. I think we are a bit more flexible as a society, and I know some consequences of poor self-care. I haven't been sleeping well lately, so right now that's one of them for me. I got
Yes.
to get some sleep tonight. I've just been like burning it at both ends, and I haven't been making it a priority to take care of myself. What are some other consequences of poor self-care that you hear in your practice?
So a lot of times people are burnt out. You become burnt out because you are overworking yourself, you're overcommitting, and you're not taking any time for self-care. Burnout
Hmm.
happens so easily. We get so caught up in our daily lives at work, and home, that we don't take the time out to engage in self-care, and we become burnt out, and we don't realize we're burnt out until we're already burnt out.
Yes.
Health issues. We have all type of health issues for not, engaging in self-care.
Hmm.
Sleep problems, problems with our personal health that leads us to be sick. And then once we become sick, we're ill, we're unable to work. A decline in mental health, which leads to a decline in clarity. A
Yeah.
lack of clarity. You can't focus like you need. You can't focus like you need to. If
Hmm.
you're not good for yourself, you can't be good for anybody else.
Hey man, it's like running a sports car at 125 miles an hour for 10 straight hours. It's a sports car, a great built a machine, great engine and all that kind of good stuff, but it's not built to go 125 hours, 125 miles an hour, 10 hours straight. It's important to stop and um, get gas and allow the engine to kind of rest and recover a bit. And I don't think we're any different if I have two girls, and life gets the best of us sometimes. And I think that's so important. We have this pace of life that we live, and sometimes we allow that to uh I had a supervisor one time tell me, he's like, don't let the tail wag the dog. And so sometimes we get that way. Instead of us wagging the tail's wagging us, and it kind of controls our day to the point where it just gets away from us. And one day becomes a couple days, and then a week, and before you know it, you're crashing. And the free time that you do have, you want to do nothing but sleep, and you don't have any time for your kids, and
Mhm.
that affects all kinds of stuff in the family system, and things just begin to unravel.
Yes,
One of
I
the
definitely
biggest,
agree.
and what is one of the biggest uh, rulers of our life right now, social media, right?
Yes.
And so how does that play into? I can't tell you how many times I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I can't tell you how many times I have you self-talk with me at 10 o'clock at night. Brian, what are you doing on your phone? Dude, go to bed. You're not going to find any. Stop scrolling, Brian. Put your phone down and go to bed. And the blue light from this, it just ends up keeping you up longer, stimulates the brain in ways that we don't want at 10 o'clock at night. So, is this something you run across in your practice? How social media has begun to hinder that self-care and hinder mental health?
Social media is one of the things that we see the most, counseling clients and dealing with people, in the community. A lot of times people get stuck on social media. They spend all these hours on social
Mm-hmm.
media every day looking at Facebook and Instagram and all these other things. And we see people, modeling their lives, and they make it
Mm-hmm.
seem like their lives are so perfect, but they're really not. So we find ourselves trying to see how we can kind of be more like them in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, because it seems like their life is so good, but the grass is not greener on the other side. People who tend to get stuck with social media, you know, that focus on social media and all these other apps that are out there, they end
Mm-hmm.
up developing anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, because you see people who model, what a person should be, and then when you don't fit that, you know,
That
when you don't
profile.
when you don't fit, I
Right?
lost the words. When you don't fit that profile, you begin
Yeah.
to feel, depressed, and your self-esteem, you devalue yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that as we look at the world that's evolving, that we take a break from social media.
Yeah.
Maybe if you don't take a break every day, a couple hours a day, I'm gonna browse from this time to that time, or whatever the case is. But I think it's important to take a break from social media. People don't really realize how much it really hurts them.
Hmm.
Instead of engaging with your family, you're on Facebook looking at
Yeah.
the latest news of what's going on. A lot of times Facebook causes depression.
Mm,
Instagram, those things cause depression because you see all the news stories and the different stuff on there, and it's not helpful to your self-care at all.
yeah. Yeah. And it's all geared by folks that have never met us. They don't care about us. It's like it's all about clickbait. It's all about getting folks, getting the exposure. So a lot of these stories and things that you're reading about, who knows if they're even true, right? And so we're reading this stuff and just feeding our mind full of all this junk. that we don't even know if it was filtered out, how it was filtered out. Is it real? Is it true? Is it relevant? Does it matter? Whatever. And that it has an effect on our reality. It begins to reset our own algorithm of life, and we all have one of those, right? And so, as we begin to reset this baseline for ourselves, we're watching, we're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, and this is setting a level of anxiety, of alertness, of exposure to the social media, and then when we put the phone down, our minds are trying to maintain that same model, that same standard, and it can't do it because we're back in reality again. And then we start experiencing a lot of this anxiety, and that's when we pick our phone up again. Oh God, I'm back again. Okay, home base. Oh, I got to scroll a little bit here. I can't be by myself. I can't sit alone without looking like I'm doing something. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. And we set it down and we're like, oh no, I got to be back on my phone again. I can't look up and see the world around me. Right?
Almost like we're addicted.
It is, man. And it's like if we would just allow the world around us and just to be that standard, experience life and
Mhm.
just be present. Preaching to myself right now, right?
Yes.
Stay off the phone. So that's a part of self-care. How else can we better manage the self-care piece?
I think it's important to make sure that you're setting boundaries, because a lot of times we are that yes person and we don't know how to say no, because we
Mm,
want people to feel like we're supportive, we're there for them. So instead of saying that hard no, knowing that you have other things planned, you say yes, and you get yourself into the situation where you have overcommitted to things that you know that you really can't do.
mm.
I think it's important to make sure that you're planning for self care, because a lot of time, we plan for things in our schedule all the time, but we don't plan for self care. And
So true.
That should be just important and a part of your schedule as any other daily task. You have appointments, whether you're seeing clients, whether you're going to Walmart, shopping, whatever you're doing, it's important to schedule self care, because if you don't schedule it, then most likely it's not going to happen because we get caught up in our daily lives you know
That is so true. That's a great point. Uh, Putting it in your schedule, making it an actual event in the day, not going about that. That's such a good point. Not going about the day like, oh, I'm going to work out today if I have time, if things work out, if I get done with work, or, it's put it in your schedule, and then it's an event that's scheduled, that's going to happen. You plan for it accordingly, and you don't give yourself an out.
right, that time is blocked off. Know how
Yes.
much time you have.
Yes, I love that. So what are three I guess maybe three main areas of focus that we could have to manage self-care. Maybe you probably have a lot of different areas that you see in private practice and otherwise in the field. And I'm wondering what are like, give our listeners kind of a top three list of some areas they could focus on.
So I think it's important that we focus on our
Hmm.
physical self care, which can involve, doing activities, getting exercise, watching your diet. You could, example would be going for a hike, playing a sport, doing some type of yoga,
Get outside.
even your physical health. It could even mean going to the doctor, because a lot
Yeah.
of time we put doctor's appointments off that we really need to go to that are important. Mental self care. We're in the mental health field. We're teaching people how to manage their mental health. This can involve activities that help declutter your life, your
Mm,
mind, help you to reduce stress. Um, Caring for your mental health may look different to different people. What
yeah.
I may do to take care of my mental health may be something different that you don't do. Maybe you go for a walk and you think things through, and other people do different sorts of things to kind of manage their mental health.
Yeah.
Another area is emotional self-care. It involves caring for yourself, your emotional well-being. This could mean taking some time to meditate or write in your journal, or maybe even you call a close friend and you talk to them about, the things that are going on in your life.
Hmm.
Or, another thing to kind of help with these physical, mental, and emotional is seeking mental health.
Mm,
Find a therapist. Sometimes it's helpful to talk things through with a professional, because they can point out things that you may not necessarily see.
yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. 24/7 DCT, right? That's what we do.
That's
So
right.
reach out. Let us be a support. I mean, this is what this is all about. We want to bring awareness. We want to make folks help folks familiarize themselves with the areas that are major pitfalls. And if that's happening in your life and you're struggling, you're having a hard time, reach out. We want to be a support. It brings to mind, you just made me remember, I got to make an appointment, a doctor's appointment for my daughter. I tell you, thank you. I just remember that. You were sitting here listening, and I'm like, oh, crud, I really need to do that. Okay, that'd be a good dad here. So, I like Dr. Daniel Amen. I don't know if you know much about him, but Amen Clinics, he does a lot of brain spec scans, phenomenal guy, super big brain. And he has the four circles of mental health: psychological, physical, spiritual, and connection. And social is what it's the connection piece. So those are the four circles that he sees as the main areas of balance in our life. And so if we maintain that physical, and you brought that up, the psychological, which is the emotional, the spiritual is that idea that we're connected to something bigger than ourselves. We have a purpose. We're here for a meaning, a reason. And then the social, it being the connection piece. So life is about relationships, whether we like it or not. Everything from getting a cup of coffee at the Circle K to ones with the closest members of your family. So without that connection, we are relational beings, and without that connection, it tends to create imbalance in our lives. So thank you. That's solid. I appreciate that. Any other resources that you might have? I was trying to think of some myself. I want to be able to offer some of those to our listeners. And Dr. Daniel Amen Clinics, that's spelled Amen, Amen Clinics. Great resource. He's got a ton of books out there as well. You can find all that stuff on his site as it relates to mental health, addiction, self-care, etc. What resources do you have that we could share with our listeners as well?
So I often recommend this app to my clients. It's called Calm. And basically what the app does is it has hundreds of meditations and different topics related to anxiety, stress, sleeping, different things to kind of help you with your mental health. It's kind of a self-help thing that doesn't require you to talk to anybody. If you're that person that don't
Mhm.
want to really engage with people, you just want something that a topic and something to kind of read. It's
Mhm.
very helpful. It gives you different deep breathing techniques and type of things to kind of help manage your mental health. There's several apps out there. If you basically do a search in your app store on your phone, a whole bunch of apps will pop up with different type of things that you can do to kind of manage your mental health. I also think it's important that, if you are feeling like you need mental health, that you are seeking counseling services, maybe if it's in your community, online, whatever works for you. Because the thing is, with COVID, everything's available basically virtual now. So there's no reason
Mhm.
why we shouldn't be reaching out when we need help.
Yes.
A lot of times it's hard for people to reach out. They don't want to go into an office and sit down and in front of somebody and talk to them. They rather do it online, or they rather do it over the phone because it makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
We see this with a lot of people who suffer from, very severe anxiety. They go outside, they're having a panic attack. Well, guess
Mhm.
what? If you kind of get that counseling online, it's going to teach you how to be able to go back out in the community without having anxiety and panic attacks and these type of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Reset your baseline a bit. And seeking counseling is scary. We've covered a bit of that and what our process looks like at 24/7 DCT and some past podcasts. So check those out as well, folks. And um, I like the fact that you mentioned Calm, because if you're going to be on your phone, at least be doing something that's healthy for you, right? Pull up that app that's going to be a benefit. It's going to be good balance. It's going to be a safe place for you to reset a bit. I'm actually on the advisory board for an app, a Gen Z specific app that's coming out this summer. It's called Brighton, Brightn, not En, just N. And you can find out more information about that at brightenyourlife.com. And that'll be coming out this summer. If you include your email there, we'll send you information on the app, how to get that, et cetera. And you can use that beginning this summer. And it's going to be mental health specific to find balance in all these areas we're talking about. So more to come on that, but you can check out that at brightenyourlife.com. So I certainly, we're on the same page. Counseling also a big part of a healthy self-care plan. And that leads me to a question from one of our listeners. We try to do this every week as well. We get these questions that come in, and I want to try to cover some of these in the podcast because it's hard to do it otherwise. It seems like the most efficient way to do it. So, question this week, want to hear your thoughts, Dr. Hill. How do I know if therapy is working for me?
So that's a question that I hear a lot. And people don't realize that therapy can actually work for you. Therapy takes time and it
Mhm.
takes work, and you have to be willing to do the work to improve your life. Therapy is working for you. You may feel a weight being lifted off. You have a good relationship with your therapist. You're able to process and discuss things openly with your therapist, and just be honest about what's going on in your life. You feel comfortable. You feel that you are actually learning skills and different things from your therapist that you can actually implement in your daily life. It's important to make sure that you have a great relationship with the therapist, because if you don't have a good relationship with your therapist and you don't really like them, then it's going to be very hard for you to open up and express yourself,
Mhm.
and talk about your past. Because when we're in therapy, we're talking about very, important areas of our lives that may make us vulnerable. And
Yeah.
you have to be willing to be vulnerable with that counselor.
Yeah.
If you're not, then what's the point? You're wasting time, you're wasting money, you know, when you could have been getting the services that you need. So I think that it's very important to never be afraid to, if you feel like you're not getting what you need from your therapist, or you feel like you're not getting better, or that you feel like the therapist is not specifically trained in what you need, it's
Mhm.
important to look for another therapist. It's okay to look for another therapist. You're not stuck with a person and forced to do therapy with them. You have options available to you.
Yeah.
I just think it's important for people to realize that they have options, because a lot of
Yeah.
times I've seen where people will just stay with therapists and they're really not getting anything from it, you know. But we want to make sure that our time is being utilized, to help somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're just looking to make a weekly donation to a counselor and you don't care about change, then you're welcome to write that check to me. I'm happy to deposit that on a regular basis. No, we want you to have a better life. We want you to find better balance. We want it to make sense for you. So I agree with
Yes.
Dr. Hill, absolutely, and that rapport piece is so important. I mean, if there's not a connection there, then seek
Mhm.
otherwise, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many, I can't tell you how many colleagues I've worked with, and we all have a completely different approach. We all have our own personalities, our own strengths, our own unique gifts in the counseling approach. And regardless of the approach or the individual, it oftentimes gets worse before it gets better.
Mhm.
Uh, and that can be scary because it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't sometimes. And so that keeps folks out of counseling sometimes because that's scary making that jump to a new norm. But if you can hold out and you can sustain, it'll lower that baseline. All this stuff we've been talking about, it'll put you in a place where it's more sustainable. It's more functioning. It's you're happier. You're less stressed. Lower anxiety. Lower cortisol levels. That stuff just eats away at us at the cellular level. Increases stress and all that chemicals that just kind of breaks down our body. All that stuff is playing against us. And so to find that safe place, whatever that looks like for you, maybe me, maybe Dr. Hill, maybe whoever, but if it ain't working, fix it, right?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Hill, and I appreciate your patience with me chasing you down over the over the last
Well, it's
two
been a
weeks.
pleasure to be here. I'm always willing and open to discuss mental health topics, because people out there are suffering and they need help. So
Amen.
we always want to make sure that we can, kind of assist in any way possible.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you on the team, and I'd love to have you back on the podcast here at some point. Maybe we can talk about that a little more off camera and figure out when we can have you back on if you're open to it.
Okay.
Awesome. If you're interested in engaging with therapists like Dr. Hill, you can find more information online at 247dct.org. So don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to join you today in sorting out all that stuff that seems hopeless and get you back on track. That brings us to Real Talk with Brian, and this week's encouragement is brought to you by Parker Palmer, who said, "Self-care is never a selfish act. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer to others. Self-care is absolutely a form of self-love, and it's an effort to manage well the most valuable resource we have, really, and that's us, ourselves. I really struggle with self-care myself, and it's something I'm working on because I know now more than ever at 48. I'm a slow learner. It takes me a while. Uh, that I'm always modeling to my tribe through my behaviors, and I don't want my girls to repeat all the bad parts of me. So take time today, folks, to love on yourself. You deserve time each day to truly be one with yourself, and I promise, if you do so, your tribe will love you for it. Be sure to follow me weekly, follow my weekly trilogy series on LinkedIn at hashtag Be Real with Brian to gain insight in the areas of mental health, addiction, and general wellness. I appreciate everyone that joined us today. If you're interested in gaining practical advice and expert insights for living your best life, join us weekly on Let's Talk Mental Health for support and to connect with others that genuinely understand what you're going through. Again, you can check us out on all major social media platforms by searching 24/7 DCT and online at 247dct.org. We look forward to spending time with you next week as we welcome yet another guest who's committed to getting you feeling better.